All right, here we go. Turn 11. It's May 1915. On the Eastern Front, the Germans are not on the offensive over here. They have dug in. They pretty much all the units that they moved in there, they dug in. Austrians are digging in at the moment, just trying to consolidate or keep the losses at a minimum. I think they're going to be waiting for an offensive because of what's going on the Western Front. Because there might be a reinforcing of troops coming soon in the next 6 months. So we'll never know, but right now they're just kind of waiting. So not much to report here on the Eastern Front. It's up to the Russians to see what's going to happen. All right, so we go over here to the, well, let's just say the Western Front. Things are collapsing. There was the unit that was here, the fort. There, the siege guns opened up on it, and it was like a 4-1. And the units inside the fort just got obliterated. There wasn't much they could do. There was some units that were here and here that attacked. There was, I think, where was it? Here. Yeah, there was a unit there. And the remnants of it are demoralized. There was a couple losses of the units. And I think it was an exchange involved in there. So some of the German units disappeared, and some of them, there were German, or not the French. There we go. French were demoralized and fell back. All right, there was a French unit parked right here, and there was a 3-1 attack, and all the units, each attack just took out the French units right there and took them out, which was kind of interesting. Nobody was demoralized. They were just obliterated. So this whole area from here to here is wide open. So they could be doing a push or a swing around to hit Paris here. So it's like go down this way and this way. So right now I think this city is going to have some problems. I do believe the French will probably pull back out of the forts right here and form a new line to stop with whatever reinforcements they can bring in. Cheap, quick troops. Now, the interesting thing is that there was an attack right here. The Germans attacked the British right here. And this was a really interesting attack. Is like each attack within the combat ended up with a demoralize on the British. So the British fell back. So they're going to have to fall back again to get out of the zone of control. Because you can't, all right, you fall back 1 hex, all right? And since then you're out of enemy zone of control, and then they push into the hex that you just vacated right here. So now you're in zone of control. But when you start, and if you're demoralized, you can't be in a zone of control of an enemy force, so you have to fall back. So it basically pushes them back to here, probably. And then these guys will fill in the gap. So if you've been wondering how that's working, that's pretty much how it works. And then when you got I guess I never did show you combat in this right here. All right, let's just say we got this French. Here's your French here. It's defending a hex. You got a couple 4-6s, and you're getting attacked by, these are all dead guys anyway, so I can use them. And you got 2 stacks, 2 hexes worth of 4-6s, and let's just say, for purposes, these are the 3-3 artillery. They're not 3-3 artillery, but all right. You have to attack each unit inside that hex. Now you can gang up on somebody. Each one of these attacks here is a 1-1, 2-1, 3-1. So you can have 2 3-1s attacks right there by doing that. Split up, there's 2 3-1 attacks. Since these are 3-3, so those are artillery, we're attaching them to these guys. That means there's another 6. So this could be a 4-1 attack, and this one would be a 3-1 attack. All right. You can make this a 5-1 attack versus a 2-1 attack. You preferably have it go at least a 3-1 because the odds are in your favor with a 3-1. Like if you look at the chart over here, 3-1. The chances are you're going to get some exchanges involved here. But a no decisions units, your best unit each side basically disappears. And exchange, you got to exchange equal amount of defense versus your attack. Half exchange is if they have a defense of 6, you got to lose at least 3. And then you got defender demoralized, and they have to fall back. That's on a 7 or 8. And if you roll a 9 or a 10, and now if you have later on, you might have some like stormtroopers or something, you get a +1 to the attack, so you could roll an 11 or something like that. There's pluses some places in the game. So on a 3-1, you have some good chances of eliminating somebody. Most of the time, it's going to be exchanges, half exchanges with some chances. 4-1. I guess here's the 3-1. Here's the 4-1. Look at that. When you get to 4-1, you can destroy units really easy. If you get into 5-1, you got pretty much almost a 50% chance of taking somebody out. So you're always looking to get that 4 and 5-1 odds to take somebody out. And then I don't like attacking with either side with a 1-1 odds, but you can do it. Typically, it's not going to work in your favor, but it is possible. Sometimes you roll lucky. But that right now is the turn in May of 1915. Oh, one thing I meant to show you, I forgot to. But you look over here, you got Bulgaria, supposed to roll for in April, but there's no pluses and they didn't come into the battle. And we have to roll for Italy, but the problem is, okay, it's a -2 for May 1915 and a +1 for each major city. So these cancel these. And so it's a straight up dice roll, and you got to roll a 3 or less to get the Italians into the war, and you got to roll a 14 or greater with the Central Powers. And right now, neither side had enough. Obviously, the Central Powers can't get the Italians right now. They got to take out a whole bunch more French cities to be able to, but neither did it roll good enough to get the Italians to come in on the Allied side. So there we go. And Romania is not till 1916. Greece is 1916 in the United States. April, there's no chance. You got to roll a 0 or less, and there was no modifiers to drop it below 1. So there you go. All right. Just to let you know what's going on. Okay. That's the turn for the Central Powers. We'll be back. All right, buddy. Here we go. Turn 10 for the Allies on the Eastern Front. And things are, well, good, bad, and ugly. All right. The Russians continue to pound Koenigsberg. And, well, they did a good job of taking out some of the units. They focused hard on a couple of the units that were in there and actually took them out. And the one that was in there that was the one attack that happened, that was at like 1 to 2 odds for the Russians, just kind of a piecemeal. That's the only thing that's held the fort. And they attacked here. There was a hex there that was these 3 hexes opened up on it and took the hex away from the Germans, but they did take some casualties. As you can see, there's hardly anybody left in those hexes due to the fact that they had some exchanges or half exchanges in the process, but they did take out the Germans that were holding it. They're slowly pushing the Germans back, it seems to be, on the Eastern Front. And they're taking back some of their territory. So they got that. And over here, they attacked a good attack. Here, the bad thing is that there was the one attack. They took out two of the units out of the Lemberg right here, but the third attack was the weakest one, and that ended up becoming an attacker exchange because I rolled a 1, -1, became, well, really bad. So the Russians died in that attack. Otherwise, they probably would be holding Lemberg right now. So it's just like dice roll. If it would have been, in this case, a really good die roll, they would have taken that city away from the Germans, and they would have taken that city away from the Austrians. But they held. You know, it's like all it takes is one bad die flip, and, well, there you go. So some good attacks and some bad attacks, but they took a lot of Germans out and Austrians in the process of doing that. So, well, it's right now, I think the losses just on the Eastern Front are greater than what the Germans can replace. So that's the one thing out of the deal. Then over here on the Eastern Front to the Western Front, the French pulled back. It was like this was unattainable situation right there. So they pulled most of their forces back, and they're built a line. They're going to hold out to Paris, and they're going to try to hold out here, form a line there. And the British did do an offensive right here. They attacked the unit, was right there, and unfortunately there was an exchange and a half exchange in that conflict, and end result was they took the Germans out of there. So the losses for the Germans was greater than the replacement pool can replace in one turn. But it's the same thing that happened with the British. They lost more troops than they can replace either. So, yeah, that's not a real good deal for them. So we'll just have to see. And these guys are supposed to be sitting right there. All right, so that's what we have. And this demoralized little counter goes away. There we go. Those guys are back in action. All right, so that is the end of turn 10 on the Western Front for the Allies. As you can see, things are still slowly ground down on the Western Front, and the Russians are still doing their job trying to put pressure on the Germans. It's just that the French right now are having a hard time fighting their way out of this mess. They're holding up north, but the south, well, that collapsed. Like I said before, I think in one of my statements in when somebody asked me, it's like, in this game, in my experience with Guns of August, all it takes is, like, on the Western Front, I think it's 3, maybe 4 good attacks where you really succeed, have really good success, and you can collapse the French. You take out more of their troops they can replace. That means they have to stretch their line out to... You do that a couple turns in a row where you start making them stretch their line, and you don't take as many losses, then you can really start just hammering them. And the next thing you know, the French are collapsing in on themselves, and they're not having a good day. They're just lucky that the Italians didn't join the war in 1914 and join the Central Powers. If that would have happened, this game would be over, because you look, there's nobody down here in France, southern France, to protect themselves from the Italians. If the Italians had joined the Central Powers in 1914, like they could have, that means all these troops that are up here trying to defend themselves against the Germans, some would have to come down here to hold the line. That means they're stretched more up there. So, yeah, not good. All right. We'll see what can happen. We'll be in the next one. We're moving on to June. All right, later.